Alright, I'm real excited today to talk about this workshop. It's called the Infinite Wisdom Within. I think it's probably the most powerful workshop there is because it really gets to the heart of the matter, and that is within you there is an infinite wisdom that's living within you and controls every single function of your body. So let's get into it. What I want to do is prove that there's infinite wisdom within you. When you say that to somebody, they think it's just some kind of airy-fairy, like esoteric thing, but I'm letting you know right now it's absolutely true. This equation was shown to me by a guy named Dr. Ray Drury, and I found it to be fascinating. So let's get into it. There are about 75 trillion cells in your body. I mean, that's alone is amazing. 75 trillion cells is a hard enough number for us to conceptualize. Each cell of your body in every given moment in time has 200,000 chemical reactions going on in it. Each cell. So what that means, and by the way, a moment in time is a snapshot. You could fit probably thousands of them inside a second. So what that means is that in every given moment in time in your entire body, this is the amount of chemical reactions going on. It's a number that we can't even comprehend, and that's a moment. Now imagine every second, every minute, every hour, every day. What that means is the amount of chemical reactions going on in your body is infinite. Okay? Now these chemical reactions, do you think they're organized or do you think they're unorganized? They're obviously extremely organized. These are the chemical reactions that are creating energy inside of your body. They're creating hormones inside of your body. They're opening up genes to be expressed, creating proteins, and creating who you are. So you got to think about how much organization is inside you. So when there's organization, there must be intelligence. Literally, within inside your body is infinite intelligence. Okay? The only other concept I know that's infinitely intelligence is something that we call God. Right? Now, we don't want to get too spiritual with it. That's not the purpose of this talk. No matter what you believe, though, you have to admit that there's a wisdom within you, whether you call it your subconscious mind, you call it your soul, call it God. In chiropractic, we call it your innate intelligence. Innate means inborn. It's the intelligence that you're born with. So when you're a baby and you're eating some food, you don't need to have educated wisdom. You don't need to read a book on how to digest that food and break it up into carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and put them in your body. You don't need to do that. There's this inborn wisdom that knows everything. With this innate intelligence, we have to realize who knows what your blood pressure should be. It's not your educated mind, right? It's this infinite wisdom that knows what your blood pressure should be. The whole idea that your blood pressure should be 120/80, it's not a very scientific number to have. They just take a group of people that they believe is healthy, they have no clue if they are or not, and they say, oh, this looks like to be a pretty standard number, right? I'm going to tell you something. If your blood pressure goes up or it goes down, this infinite wisdom within you, this innate intelligence, is doing it for a very particular reason. Also, how do you know how much insulin to produce when you eat food, right? If I'm taking, let's say, a piece of fruit or a piece of bread, whatever it may be, and I put that on my tongue, the innate wisdom of my body, this infinite intelligence, automatically communicates to my pancreas and tells it how much insulin to produce. Same with cholesterol. How much cholesterol should you have? Well, the conventional says you should have under 200 units of cholesterol. However, the innate wisdom of the body may have a different opinion of that. So here's the deal. Who do we listen to? You can do what almost everybody else does, and they go to their doctor and they speak to them for 10-15 minutes, get a test, and on a piece of paper you have all these numbers, and they tell you what's normal and abnormal. But I have a better idea. How about we trust the wisdom of the body? This innate intelligence knows what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean that sickness and disease never happen, but we can understand if we believe in the concept that there's an innate wisdom inside of this innate intelligence. We need to understand, well, how does it work in the human body? So let's go over that. So you have this infinite intelligence of the body, and it obviously communicates to every single cell of your body, right? So how does it do that? Now, the innate intelligence is immaterial. You can't interfere with it. How do you interfere with something that's immaterial, right? The cells of your body are something that's very material, something you can see, touch, taste, right? So what's the missing link between the two? It's energy. So the infinite intelligence of the body creates an energy, and this energy has been known for thousands of years, right? We call it mental impulse. You can call it life force, life energy. You can call it chi, prana, whatever you want to call it. There's an energy that animates your body. The innate intelligence creates the energy, and that energy, it's kind of both immaterial and material. Think about it. You can measure energy. You can measure frequencies. But what you can't measure is the infinite wisdom that's embedded inside of that energy. So I can have a whole bunch of cells in a dead body. I can't just pump electricity or energy into it. It's not going to be alive. There's a spiritualness to it, a consciousness in this energy from the innate intelligence, this infinite intelligence, through the energy, and it goes to the cell to tell it exactly what it does. Okay? Now, in the human body, the brain is actually where the infinite intelligence resides. It actually resides in your entire body, but it creates the energy in a part called your brain stem, which is located right there. And it generates this energy to flow out to your cells and tells the cells what to do and how to express themselves. Okay? How that's done is the brain generates the energy in the brainstem and it travels down nerves. And the nerves communicate to the cells. So in this example, you have this infinite intelligence. It knows what your heartbeat should be. It generates this energy. It travels down the path of this nerve to your heart cells, and then the heart beats properly. So it makes sense, I hope, to everybody. I hope that's clear enough. Just to give you an analogy, let's use this analogy. Let's use the sun as the source generating energy. It creates a ray of light that flows to the material object, let's say a flower. Okay? Infinite wisdom, the sun creating this energy, this ray of light that's hitting that flower, and as a result that flower has life, it performs its function. Okay? However, this is what people don't realize. You can have interference to that ray of light, right? What happens if I put a tree blocking the ray of light happening to the flower? That flower is not going to live very long, right? Now, it's not a problem with the flower. It's not a problem with the infinite wisdom creating the energy in the sun. The problem is there's something in the way blocking the energy. Guess what? The same thing happens inside of your body. You have this infinite wisdom generating life energy, propelling down this neuron. But what happens if I block this? Obviously, we know if I cut a nerve, what happens to where that nerve is going? That part of the body totally dies. Well, what you guys have learned through the workshops here is what this blocking is something called an atlas subluxation. So if you take a look here, this is your brainstem right here. It's what's generating the life energy, and when that top bone is in place, there's no interference. However, when you get that top bone misaligns, like in this picture, you get pressure on these nerve fibers, and it means that life energy is blocked to certain parts of your body, and those parts of your body die. So, your body's not stupid. It's extremely smart. The infinite wisdom always knows what to do. When you're sick and you have a chronic disease, it's not because the wisdom within your body doesn't know what to do. It's because its energy is being blocked off. It's being compressed, and it can't get to where it needs to go, and that part of your body literally dies. Now let's talk about some fun stuff though. When we adjust somebody and you take pressure off of the brainstem, a lot of cool things happen. You'll see normal heartbeats come back, you'll see normal respiration rates, normal healing, normal immune system response, and it's something we call homeostasis, right? Your body will be in the perfect condition to adapt to anything it needs to adapt to. And again, when I say normal, I want you to realize something too. What's the normal respiration rate? It's different for everybody. What's the normal heartbeat? Different. Normal blood pressure? Different for everybody. Nobody knows that except the wisdom within you. But let's talk about some fun stuff too that no one ever talks about. When you open somebody up with an adjustment, you take pressure off the nerves. Look at this stuff: increased intuition, increased intelligence, and normal emotional responses. How does that happen with adjustment? Let's talk about it. This is for me, the real purpose of care. This is really fun, right? This highlighted area on the left is the brainstem, and we all understand that when you have a misalignment right here choking that lower brainstem, the energy can't travel down this part fully, and parts of your body get starved of life. What people don't realize, though, a lot of times, is that energy also flows upward to the brain, right? So here's the thing: your brain is an organ just like your heart, just like your stomach, just like anything else. So whereas the heart, its function is to create a heartbeat, right? And it's the energy that flows to the heart that creates the heartbeat. Well, your brain, the whole function of the brain is to conceptualize, create thought, have impulses, have intuitive thought, have emotional responses to things, have memory. So when you have a subluxation, or the atlas is misaligned, squeezing on the brainstem, it's going to interfere with all of those processes, okay? Literally, it disconnects you from the infinite wisdom. That infinite wisdom is always speaking to you if you can listen to it. And that's where intuition and really intuitive thought comes from, which will guide you on your life. One of my favorite seminars I used to attend was by a mentor of mine. It was called The Dynamic Essential, and his name is Dr. Sid Williams. And what the Dynamic Essential is this: when you become aware, humble, and obedient to the voice of God within, you become dynamic, and that is essential. What he meant by this is this: that infinite wisdom is always speaking to you, and when you get adjusted, that little tiny whisper starts to become louder and louder and louder. Then you become aware of it. And what he means by becoming humble and obedient is this: a lot of times we get these intuitive thoughts, and I'm sure many people listening can understand this. You get an intuitive thought or an impulse to do something, but then you talk yourself out of it. You say, man, that sounds stupid, I'm not going to do that, right? That's when you're not being humble and you're not being obedient. When you become aware, humble, and obedient to this voice within you, that's what makes you the genius that you are. That's when you become dynamic. That's when you find purpose in life. No matter how stupid it sounds, how crazy it is, that infinite wisdom within you is never going to lead you wrong. It's always going to lead you down the right path. Just like you can trust it to make your heart beat properly, or your stomach to digest foods, and to heal your body, you can trust it to guide you in life wherever you want to go. So how do you contact this innate wisdom? You don't. It's about becoming humble. You have to realize the hierarchy. Who we are, the small us, the ego, is less than the infinite wisdom within us. So there's a couple of steps we can do, but pretty much the more you prove yourself to this infinite wisdom that you're going to listen to it, the more you're going to hear it, the more it's going to contact you and speak to you. So if I had to make my list of things to listen to amplify this voice within, number one by far, get adjusted. Dr. B.J. Palmer actually did studies on what he called thought flashes, which is where he would get visions of what he was supposed to do in life. Dr. B.J. Palmer, for those of you who don't know who this is, he was the developer of chiropractic. He was somebody who was raised with almost no money, and by the time he died had over $80 million, which would be about $1 billion today. And I'm not saying this to brag about him, and it's not about the material gains, but it's how he lived his life. Here's a guy who opened up a school without going to school. He opened up a newspaper, one of the most successful newspapers, without ever taking a class on how to run a newspaper. He started the first radio station west of the Mississippi. He actually hired Ronald Reagan as an employee. It was one of the most successful radio stations to ever exist. He had a very successful broadcasting channel. Again, no schooling, what he would do is get quiet every morning. He'd wake up around 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would just listen to that voice, write out whatever thoughts were coming into his head, and he would obey immediately whatever that infinite wisdom was telling him to do. And he claimed this is how he became ultra successful in life. When he found how to listen to that infinite wisdom and trust it, it became louder and louder and louder until he just amassed this, brought chiropractic to the world, amassed his wealth, his fame, his fortune. Pretty much he became who he was supposed to become. He was a guy who lived on purpose. But he would do studies on getting adjusted and found that when you got adjusted, these thought impulses, these thought flashes increased tremendously if you cleared out the top bone off of that brainstem. Number 2, every single religion out there talks about fasting. Every spiritual group talks about fasting. It amplifies that voice inside of you. It clears out your vessel. So we recommend fasting obviously for health reasons, but for spiritual reasons as well. Getting off medications and drugs, and this includes foods. These deaden the nerves and quiets the voice within. My father-in-law never really took any kind of medications in his life. He broke his leg, and he's a long-time meditator, feels very connected to God. Broke his leg, had to have surgery on it, was put on some painkillers, was so freaked out after a couple days of being on them, he got himself off. Why he was freaked out was that when he was on them, he felt he could not connect to God at all. I don't know if people know this, but almost every single mass shooting that's ever existed, so those school shootings that are horrible, horrible things, and the media will never tell you this, every single one of those kids was on a mind-altering medication. They're horrible, horrible things. They deaden your connection to that infinite wisdom within you. Make time to listen. A lot of times we, even if we are religious, we pray a lot, but we speak a lot to God, but we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So we should spend twice the amount of time listening for that voice. So spend time every day getting quiet and listening to that voice of God within you. And finally, when you do get an impulse or an intuitive thought, act on it, no matter how crazy it seems. And don't worry, it's not going to be anything that requires you to do anything dangerous. It's not going to be anything that's going to cause harm to anybody. These impulses are always peaceful. If it's coming from God, it's peace, it's love, it's joy. So act on these impulses when you get them. And the more you act, the more you're going to get the trust of this infinite wisdom within, the more it's going to come through you more and more. Guys, the whole purpose of this is to become the genius that you are. When you study people who have just transcended time, who were a genius in their day, you look at how they live, they all do the same thing. Someone like Thomas Edison, for example, he'd have a quiet room. He would go into, when he couldn't think of a solution, he would go into a dark room and just sit there and just wait for the intuition to come. He would just listen. You can talk about people like Mozart. Same thing. All these people who are very well off, who are geniuses, who did some fantastic stuff, they all lived the same way. They all trusted that inner genius within them. And when you realize that none of us are really geniuses, what's the real genius? That infinite power within us that's guiding us in every single aspect if we just allow it. So pretty much get yourself out of the way, let this genius come through and be who you're supposed to be. Hey, your body was created to coincide with nature. Live according to the laws of nature and you can expect health. And that includes in every aspect, mentally, socially, and spiritually as well. Again, Pure Life Health Centers, here's our number, 561-808-8092. Shoot us an email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Give us a call. We do free consultations and exams, and we let you know if we can help you, or if you need to find someone in your area, let us know. Hope you found this insightful. To me, it's changed my life, and I hope it changes yours. Love you. Bye.